Steve Guerber, my goodness, I am very happy that you are here. Thank you for coming,
Well,
sir.
you bet. Glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Your likeness has been vexing me since I moved here because literally the first park we went to was Guerber. I was like, let's go to Gruber.
Yeah. Well, everybody else does that too. So.
Listen, you are one of the original people that helped build the iteration of Eagle that we, many, many people love and adore. You have a park named after you, which is lit.
Yeah.
I want to know how I pull that one off.
Yeah.
But, you had reached out because you were consuming some of the shows in the elections. Thank you for doing that. And I invited you on because I want to know what Eagle was, how it got to the place it is. And, everybody talks about keeping Idaho. And more specifically, localized are like, it's the Eagle way.
Yeah.
And you're part of what made that way. Talk to me about that.
Well, my wife and I moved here with our 3 kids in 1980. And I had been in Idaho before that, went to school in Pocatello, Idaho State University, became the first business editor of the Idaho Statesman in 1970. And so that kind of got me going. I had never been to Eagle even when I lived in Boise because it was way out there. I just never took the time to drive all the way out in the country like that to see Eagle. When we came back, we had lived in the flight path into Stapleton Airport in Denver. And basically my wife said, I want to live as far away from the airport as I can. Eagle was far away. That's how we ended up literally deciding that we would get a place in Eagle. I really got involved early with activities there because right after we moved in, we got a flyer in the post office box, post office box 102, because everybody was still in a post office box in 1980 in Eagle. Say they were looking for people who wanted to join the volunteer fire department. And that's how I really got engaged, was with that group of people. The fire department had one truck in the fire station that's now Custom Medica, right across the street from U.S. Bank.
Idea.
And the building's bigger than it was then because we did actually have an expansion as we got a couple other trucks. But literally...
Did you know Brian Simpson's dad?
Yeah, sure.
Because he said he grew up like getting taken to the fire station.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. The station had a siren on the top of it, and that's what would go off if there was a fire reported. There were a couple of people who got phone calls. They go down there, trigger the siren, write the address on a blackboard, and then take off in the truck. And the rest of us would come either look at the blackboard and see the address, or in a lot of cases, you could see where the water is dripping down the road, and you knew that was the way that you wanted to go, was to follow the truck. If it turned a corner, you knew you were in the right place because there's a lot of water that splashed out of the truck. But that's how things went. We had, I'd say 20, 25 guys that were all part of the volunteer department and met all the time. And so I really kind of got engaged in the community with all those people. Saw that a councilman who had been elected for a short period of time transferred back east with Hewlett-Packard. And so there was an opening. So I applied for the thing, talked to the 3 council members that were left over, Gary Walker, Tom Mayle, and Frank Stapella, who are all still around here in Eagle. Well, actually, I think that Gary moved to Middleton. But anyway, the mayor at that time, Carol Haley, had somebody she wanted to put on the board, and so they came into the council meeting. She said, I'd like for you to nominate, my choice. And the 3 sat there, didn't do anything. Finally, one of them says, well, I'm going to nominate Steve Guerber. And it was second, and they put me on. Carol wasn't real happy about that, but that's how I got put on the council.
And
that was 83. Huh?
Gotcha. I was 1 year old.
Yeah.
83.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I was on the council then for the roughly almost 3 years, and decided to run for mayor. was elected in 1986. I was mayor until 96, and for 2 full terms. And I worked for the telephone company, Mountain Bell, at the time. Activities in Eagle were becoming so much that I could not really do the mayor job and do my full-time job with the phone company, which paid me a lot better. In fact, when I was put on the council in 83, I got a check for $25. And I said, "What's this for?" They said, "Well, that's your council." I didn't even know that I got paid, to be a council member, but it was a whopping $25. A mayor, I think, was making $100 then. Anyway, I had a kind of 2-year gap between when I was mayor and decided to go, and people wanted me to run for the council at least, which was part-time. So I ran again, was elected, and then I served on the council till 2009, which I was reelected 4 times. 2009, I took a job in North Dakota, and so we left for a period. And when I came back in 2014, I was appointed to planning and zoning. So if you add it all up, mayor 8 years, council roughly 16, 9 years. I'm in my 9th year on P&Z. And somewhere in between there, I was elected to the commission, be a commissioner at the Eagle Fire District for a few years. So, yeah, I've been engaged in Eagle for a while and kept track of a few things that were going on.
I would say so. Were you the last 2-term mayor out of Eagle? Oh, whoa, watch out.
Hello. Oh, there goes my coffee. Yeah, I was the last 2-term mayor. Actually, there were 2 mayors, and then there was a mayor that was elected that served 2 terms, and then Carol Haley was on, and then she had 1 term. Then I did serve 2 terms, and I don't think anybody has made full 2 terms since then, but that's not a big deal. We've done a lot of odd things. Rick Izaguirre became mayor when the mayor that was elected after me was recalled. After a year and a half, but then there was Rick, and then Nancy, I think, after that, and it's been kind of every 4 years, kind of a thing ever since, I think.
There's an argument that having somebody in there for more than 1 term, right, in any elected position, but specifically localized, is a real benefit to the populace in that you can make these long-term plans, or that there's continuity in the path forward, right? And there seems to be a lot of turmoil where it's essentially, you'll have a path for 4 years, and then somebody's, we're going the wrong way. And then you have somebody else, and then it's like projects are half finished, and, promises are broken, things of that nature.
Yeah, I think that's true, that there certainly is an influence when you do come in and make those changes. And there's been a lot of disruption within Eagle, a lot of disagreement. I think it's come with the growth and a lot of new people coming in and, not liking things out of the past or what was going on or whatever like that. I mean, for me, being mayor for 8 years gave me a chance to kind of stabilize some things, make decisions. Shortly after I was mayor, when I became mayor, and actually before, I had support from some people who came and said, we're coming from a place where we've seen a lot of things happen with growth. We see Boise booming or starting to boom, and here's Eagle as a suburb. We're going to see a lot of this slop over into Eagle, and we better get ready for it. Now, those people happen to be from a state now that people cringe at, California, but they did see. I mean, I happen to think California should bring good things because they helped me see what was going to happen. I put together a group called the Horizon Task Force, and I told that group, tell me what Eagle's going to be like in 20 years and what do we got to do to get ready for that. And that was when we really went through a big revamp of the comprehensive plan. There had been something kind of that existed because the state said we had to have comp plans in the city. And so there was a thing that was put together. But this really created what was a comprehensive plan that very much of which has influenced even what we have today with the comprehensive plan taking place. But anyway, that that group, I think, made a lot of decisions that had early impacts on eagle that really influenced things today. It was, like, let's put berms along those areas to shield development off from the main streets so you don't have all that noise and things like that. Interconnecting the subdivisions so that you don't have to go out to a main street to get to your neighbor, in a new subdivision.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with those. Yeah.
Sidewalks interconnected and constructed, which we really have done a lot of. Greenbelt along the river. We wanted to do something along there. Boise was developing a greenbelt in Boise, and we thought it was good to have that, prepared to have that all the way along the Boise River. We had a tree ordinance that we put in place that really encouraged trees. In fact, during my term, we created a thing that was kind of a subsidy that exists today. If you want to put a tree in your front yard within some kind of proximity to the street, the city will pay $100 toward that. You get a credit. If you go to one of the nurseries and you get a tree and you put it in, you can put $100 toward that from the city of Eagle to encourage that kind of thing to happen. When trees disappear, fall down, get blown down or whatever, now the city of Eagle puts a tree back in to replace that. So
what was it like before that? What was the big push towards trees?
Well,
I'm not against them. I'm just curious.
There wasn't a push. And I think we looked at it as what's something that would enhance what a city looks like and things like that. And Boise, of course, was a city of trees. And so they always talked about that. And it became just one of the things that was identified when we were looking at what do you want Eagle to look like 20 years. It just kind of popped up as one of those kinds of things. We also looked and said, what can we do to make sure things were happening in Eagle that the city didn't have to necessarily deal with? And we created the Eagle Community Fund in the Idaho Community Foundation. Now, I admit I had some influence because I was the director of the Idaho Community Foundation at the time, but Rick Izaguirre, who was the mayor, and I, said, let's put something together. And we actually have a fund in there. I don't know how much is in it, but every year the payout on that, a percentage of that fund, comes to the city of Eagle, and they decide where it should go in a nonprofit organization. So it's not money that comes to the city necessarily. The city kind of decides what's going on. It could go to the food bank. It could go to the veterans. I mean, those kinds of things. But
so we have essentially a nonprofit endowment fund with the Idaho Community Foundation,
yes.
or Idaho
yes.
Nonprofit Fund.
Yeah.
And so we have a sum. Where did that original capital? Where did that original capital sum come from?
The city I think we put $5,000 into it to start it, and then we basically let some companies and people and things like that know about it, so they started putting money into it. And the idea was, gee, if somebody's lived here their whole life and they're saying, what should I do with my estate? They might think, let's put part of it or whatever into this fund, because that's going to influence what's going to happen in Eagle into the future. We also, one thing that we did, we passed an ordinance that said no billboards in Eagle. And if you look at all of Eagle, we don't have those billboards, the big, high, tall billboards, except there's one at Sage Acres out on State Street, down near, near Linder.
Gotcha.
And it's a little gas station stop that's been there, and there's one billboard that was there at that time. It's grandfathered in, so it's always stayed there. But
and if you go down state to the east, you instantaneously see a dump truck of billboards.
Oh yeah, and same thing if you go on into Boise too, you see them. So it's just kind of a unique little thing, that was out of that kind of became the sign ordinances that we had, that we kind of set a guideline on what the heights could be. And there have been some that came in before we put that ordinance in, but now there's a limitation. And I guess the ordinance has been changed because there's some new signs going along State Street that are a lot taller than I recall was under that ordinance. But We, you know, we in some cases we were influenced at that time on what we could do by things that may seem kind of out of the realm, but no more than taller than 30-foot buildings in the city of Eagle, especially downtown at that time, because the fire department couldn't get any higher than 30 feet. And so we didn't want buildings that went higher than what the fire department could handle. So that's how that decision was made. So there were a lot of things I think that took place at that point in time that really have influence here. There was obviously opposition to some things that went on. When I ran against Carol Haley for mayor, it happened because of something that I was unhappy with. The Seventh-day Adventists had come in and said we'd like to put a printing company facility in Eagle, because there were a lot of Seventh-day Adventists that lived in Eagle. It was a good choice for them. They saw a spot out on the west side of town that they wanted to go to, and Carol, unbeknown to the council members at that time, said, "No way, we want this to be a small community. You start bringing in businesses like that, and you cause growth, and we don't want to have any growth in Eagle." And so when it was like, wait a minute, it's going to happen. And I was seeing this slop over from Boise thing. And so I thought saying that we're always going to be a bedroom community and provide nothing else, no businesses and things, just didn't make sense to me. And that's why I ran against her. And if you drive down the interstate at Nampa, there's a big giant building there, employs 200 people, and it's Seventh-day Adventist printing facility that could have gone in Eagle back in the 80s.
What, if I may ask, what the commerce in Eagle has been increasing, obviously,
yeah.
But have there been any notable bump ups with it where it's like, okay, we're making progress, or is it because again, the population has grown pretty steadily over the last, 2 decades, but are we in a better spot now than we were as far as a balance of tax receipts from actual commerce, or are we worse off?
We're no better off. And I guess if you look at the percentages, we're probably worse off from the standpoint of what could be generated by the commercial development, things like that. First big thing that happened from the standpoint of development was when the development was identified and built out where Home Depot and a lot of the restaurants there, Winco, that was the first big commercial development we had in Eagle. The location for other commercial development was on the other side of what actually was a controversy that we had. It was a thing called bypass. When I was mayor, the ITD came in and said we were looking at putting this bypass around downtown Eagle, and there was a big furor over that, particularly from people who lived out west, who owned land that the bypass was going to go across. It was a family that had been here decades, had lots of friends in Eagle, and it was it was a big fight, similar to what we've seen with other developments nowadays and age, but. I thought that was a smart thing to do, was to run that. Those who did not want to see a bypass wanted it to run down through the middle of Eagle to make sure that businesses could benefit from having all that traffic and things like that.
I think they're trying to do something similar in Middleton right now as well. It's a bit of a snafu, though.
But Middleton has now turned down the bypass there, and they said they didn't want it. The mayor of Star, around the time we were looking at this, told ITD we do not want that, and now you have what they got in return, which I don't look as being real beneficial to businesses, because most of the traffic running right down through the middle of Star does not stop, do a whole lot of shopping. But the proposal with the bypass was to finally, as the people in the West said, okay, as an alternative, why don't you run the bypass up to Eagle Road, turn right on Eagle, turn left on State Street, and run out that way. Well, if you think about what things are now today, that would have been catastrophic
That would have
too.
been a nightmare.
So anyway, we won out by those of us that wanted to see the bypass all the way through won out. People at the other end who were really opposed to it, particularly one particular farm, it ran across that farm. I heard they got paid a couple of $1 million for the loss of their land and being divided off. Part of it ended up now is just kind of wildland area between the bypass and the Boise River. But it was the right thing for us to do. It was a big controversy. I remember being in meetings and having, pretty heated arguments among, with the city and people who didn't want to see it happen. The other big controversy we had we made ITD happy by doing the bypass. We made them unhappy with another decision that we had. Highway 55 used to turn up what's now Old Horseshoe Bend Road, where the gas station is now, and that was where we would turn. And ITD knew they wanted to do a new route for Highway 55 further to the west.
Because if I may clarify, so you're saying over the gas station that's near Home Depot, right? If you keep traveling east.
Stinker Station.
Yeah, Stinker.
Yeah.
You used to make a right there, go past the cemetery, go past the cemetery. It's okay.
Yeah.
Go past the cemetery and then go up to essentially where the bike park is, hang a left there.
Well, it connected right directly into 55 because that was 55. There was not the current 55.
Oh, gotcha. Existed. So you just kept going up. Is that where that big turn is?
You'd come in roughly where Beacon Line Road is. Yeah.
So you come in, so you turn there and then come in and then you cut onto 55. And they're like, hey, man, we would love just a straight northern shot off of this, existing highway here. Right. The problem is there was a gravel pit, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, this... A group came in with a little project, called Lexington Hills, would have increased the population of Eagle, doubled by 50% from what was already there. And Lexington Hills would have been from what's now currently the western edge of Lexington Hills all the way over to the Old Horseshoe Bend Road, which at that time was 55. ITD said, we want to look at 55 being moved further west. But we don't know the location we want to do it. So would you hold off not having Lexington Hills built for 2 or 3 years? And we said, wait a minute. I mean, this is going to be an incredibly good project. It really did influence a lot of things in Eagle from the standpoint of open space, ponds, sidewalks, all those kinds of things that you kind of like to see as far as what, that development being an example of what we saw happen in a lot of other cases in Eagle. So we said, well, we don't want to hold off 2 or 3 years. So we drew a line on where 55 was going to go, left as part of that line, left the area that ITD was going to have to own, the right of way, and let Lexington Hills be approved. And then there was another project on the other side of 55 that was going to be part of Lexington that was also then another separate subdivision.
And that's where the fire station is, right?
Yeah. On that other location.
Gotcha.
So anyway, ITD was, let's just say, not happy with our decision because they basically got stuck with where we decided their route was going to go instead of them being able to do all the engineering and the delays and all those other kinds of things. So for a long, long time, and I don't know, maybe even to today, ITD has never been real happy with Eagle for having usurped their authority by allowing a subdivision to go in and deciding for them where 55 is going to go. Now, in my mind, 55's current, existing route is not half bad. But it was still controversial on where it was going to go and things like that. And we made a decision. In a lot of cases, I think as elected officials, you have to look at what may be better in the future. What's going to happen into the future? What do I have to do today? And is it the right thing to do, even when controversial, to do the right kinds of thing? And that's, I've told people when I've talked to them who are running for council or been elected to council or mayor or whatever, I said, what you have to do is look in the mirror and tell yourself, did I do the right thing? Or did I do it because it was making some people happy and maybe it wasn't necessarily the right thing, but I got away with, that. And so I think that's a tough thing for people that are elected to have to say, I'm going to go with what I think could be happening and what's right for the next 20 or 30 years in Eagle. And 20 years after we did the revamp of the comprehensive plan, we took a look at it and said, whoa, man, we did a pretty good job. And Eagle has kind of stayed in what we had identified as was going to make Eagle different. And we are different, I think, because of a lot of those kind of things. In fact, have been criticized for some of the things we did. And one of them was you're wasting land with putting the berms in. Go drive through new subdivisions in Meridian. Guess what they've done? They've put berms in, and they've identified things that have taken place in Eagle that others are doing, making sure that there was interconnection of subdivisions, for example. Now, if somebody moves in and they see this, sign up there that says future, this road will be continued into the future, they don't pay a lot of attention to it till it starts happening. But there is a tendency, and maybe still today, of people to say, come to council and say, you want to put a subdivision in that field? When I bought my house, the realtor told me there would never be anything back there. It was always going to be farmland. And so I bought my house thinking it's going to happen. Now you guys are not following through on what my realtor
told me.
So I kind of say, well, sometimes, and I said, well, go back and ask that realtor what happened. Well, the realtor probably wasn't available or wasn't even around or something like that. But that's one of the things that we always had to deal with. Unhappiness when that development takes place that you didn't think about being there. And especially if there's an interconnection now that takes place and means more traffic coming through that you hadn't wanted to see.
The nature of Eagle is very interesting to me in that it seems to be this great gem of the Treasure Valley, right? It seems to be this really popular, obviously property prices are very high. What's interesting is in my former life, the articulation of high property prices always equated to the best school districts, right, in general. But, obviously we have open enrollment in Idaho, so you don't have to live in the the West Ada school district in order to actually go to school there. Whoa. Every time. It's getting you. Well, it's okay.
It wakes you up. It keeps you awake.
But what is it that it seems that Eagle has been on this path of being where people really, really want to be. I actually had Mark Butler in years ago. He gave me that picture, actually, very kindly. He came in and he was explaining, some of the nature of the little things Eagle was doing with setbacks and planning and zoning and things of that nature. Is that really does it come down to planning out the city that made it so popular, or was it the preservation of the rural areas, which is another thing he said? It was when the city started preserving, 5 acres and 1 acre and, then infilling other things. What has it been?
Both. I hate to admit that I was the one who hired Mark Butler as a city planning and zoning member, but no, he had a lot of influence, actually, what was going on. But he's right. People who, at least back then, and I think today, who moved here liked the elbow room. They liked the fact that it gave you a rural feel. And that's one of the things we always kind of promoted, was the fact that, we are what I coined the term rurban, which means we are a rural city in an urban setting. And we always have tried to promote ourselves as being somewhat more rural than the other cities. And especially you look at Boise, you look at Meridian, those were the two biggest examples, I think, of what is no longer a rural feel. But that's one of the things we did, and it came because we did allow the larger lots. Really got criticized when we started doing this because it was causing urban sprawl. When you only put 2 houses in and on 5 acres, and when you could put 4 of them there, that makes it sprawl. Well, it's still 1 acre. And we got criticized because of the large lots. But if you look at what was happening with taxes, there's a thing that gives homeowners a chance to take a credit, $150,000 on their home as far as the value when it comes to taxation. Yeah. And if you put 2 $300,000 homes on an acre in Eagle and drop that off, then the value actually ends up being, because of that, instead of $600,000, it's $450,000. You put 4 $300,000 homes on an acre, and you do the math on the thing, it turns out that we actually end up getting as much tax revenue in Eagle as those who had the higher densities, because we maintained more value after that credit. So we ended up being better off in some cases because we actually were allowing the larger lots, and it didn't make sense. But if you looked at the financial aspect of it, it did make sense. And so those larger lots were popular. For a long time, we had some subdivisions that came in with 2.5 acre lots. And after a period of time, people who owned 2.5 acre lots would get off of their lawnmower after mowing 2.5 acre lots, decide that it wasn't really necessarily what we wanted. And we thought in a lot of cases they'd put horses on that and stuff like that, but it wasn't happening. So the interest in the 2.5 acres, which you will find in Eagle, dropped off, where now you're seeing more, maybe 2 acres, maybe acre and a half, something like that, being the larger lots, and a lot of clustering too. Because we said you had to have a certain percentage of your subdivision that was open space. Yeah. And that's, for developers, that was something they weren't happy with because they were giving up this area, but it also added to the appeal. And so in a lot of cases, there were things that were happening that actually enhanced the subdivisions as an attraction. I mean, even back with Lexington Hills, we said yes to Lexington Hills if they did one thing. They were increasing the size of Eagle by roughly 50%, in some, almost 50%. We had 2 schools. We needed another school to deal only with that subdivision's growth. And we said, you have to put a school in your subdivision. And they said, well, we can't, 7 acres, And we said, okay, then don't build the subdivision. It's no big deal to us if you don't want to build the thing. We're not, right. And they went, wait a minute. You're serious about this? Nobody's ever told us that we had to do things like that. And a lot of people were not saying no to a subdivision, and we did initially. And so they revamped they worked with the school district. We said, we're not saying build a school or anything like that. We're saying take that lot, sell it to the school district at your cost for the lot and putting the infrastructure in, but not make money on it. And you then let them build a school there some point in time. And they worked with the school district and found a spot they wanted. It's now Seven Oaks School on the eastern portion of Lexington. When people came in, they went look and says, oh, you're going to have a school there. I want to build right around in here and things like that. And of course, as they developed the subdivision, they would point out the fact that putting that school was the smartest idea they ever had, as far as what they were doing. They said, we wanted to put a school in here, and it's okay, fine, go ahead and pat yourself on the back. But we know really how that happened. But Eagle has said no in a lot of cases and told subdivisions, build it the way we want you to, or you don't have to build the thing. And we've been flexible in some cases on stuff we wanted if we got something in return for the community or whatever. And so that's really, for a long time, has kind of been, there was the attitude, and I can't speak for what's going on now, but I think that's still there. Eagle has gotten some things. I mean, there's a development that's going on up by Highway 55 and Beacon Light. That the city has land there that they were provided. They're going to have a park there. I think the park is actually been just finished not long ago, and there's land where we're going to someday, I think, have possibly another library branch out there. And
55 in Beacon?
55 in Beacon, yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Just probably a half mile east of the intersection there. If you go there, you'll find there's work being done, and a portion of that is a park that's I think is being opened.
Do you mean 16 in Beacon? There's no construction.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
16. 16.
I was going to say there is no east.
No, you're right.
There is no east
of 55.
Like up the hill.
Right. I'm sorry. Highway 16.
You're good. Yeah. And there is a tremendous amount of work going on.
Yeah. That part of that includes that park. I think there's the overall project's portion is like 20 acres that the city's going to be involved in as far as what's developing there. I wasn't on the council, and when it came through P&Z, I think that's what the figure was.
Gotcha.
So there is a park kind of out that way, not what people are wanting. And I agree. I think if we can do something that puts another park in the west end of Eagle, that would be great. The reason we had the parks where they are now was because of activities that as the city was growing and we didn't look that far out, we were doing things,
where the population
center was. And the first park that we had was a really small one off of Stearman that was put in there even before I became mayor and was on the council and things. One of the early council members, Kreisenbeck, got the grant from the federal government to put that park in, so we kind of named it after him. The development in Eagle Ranch, the company that owned Eagle Ranch had a park up there with a park and some tennis courts and things, and they gave that to the city because they didn't want it anymore. When the Merrill property was divided by the bypass and the chicken farm burnt down, then they ended up giving land that became Merrill Park. Then there was another park that was put in on Hill Road, which was my favorite, quite frankly. But
how did that come?
That came about because that was a gravel pit, and the city of Eagle had land that we were willing to trade ITD and Ada County Highway District for, that let them put their gravel pit elsewhere, and we ended up with that 12 acres there, and we thought it was a great spot for a park, and we started doing work on that park and things like that. And when it was finished, I was on council, came to a council meeting, and been around for quite a while doing things, and there was nothing on the agenda, and so we said, well, we need to amend the agenda. And okay, fine, we need to name our park. And so one of the council members said, I think Guerber Park would be great. Somebody.
Oh my God, they're listening. It's your phone.
Is it my phone?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. You know what it probably was?
they've
It
been
probably leaned against the
That could be. I
armrest.
thought I turned it off.
Yeah, no, it's
okay.
fine.
Anyway,
you
so
started-
they
yeah.
made a motion. Yeah, okay, fine. They passed the thing, and I'm sitting there. What the heck just happened? I knew nothing about it. I was kind of unhappy that I had been tipped off something was going on, but that was how that happened. I didn't have anything to do with it other than the fact I maybe hung around for 20 years or whatever.
Did you ever find out after the vote and after that evening obviously somebody had to plan that out?
Well, I would blame, if you want to blame somebody, Nancy Merrill. Nancy's always, liked me or whatever. I pointed
Lord knows why.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
I appointed her to planning and zoning, and that got her onto the council, and that got her to become mayor. And I mentored people over a period of time. I think Rick Izaguirre has said the same thing, that I was a great mentor for him when he was the mayor. And Rick went on and became a county commissioner, and after he left here. But I appreciate the fact that people had said those kind of things when I, worked with them and things like that back then. But that was, I think, if anybody takes the blame for it, blame Nancy Merrill for the fact that she had named a park after. I don't know if that'll help with her election or not, but
It's a beautiful park.
Yeah, it is. It's a great park, and it's fun. Well, I always ask city people, who I bump into and say, "What's your favorite park?" And they always say Merrill Park. And sometimes,
What's your favorite park other than Merrill?
yeah, sometimes Baker Park, which one of the new ones that a lot of people don't know about. That's up off of Shindon, but it was a real honor, and and I certainly appreciate it. It gets kind of embarrassing once in a while, to see something like that happen. But the other park that really is interesting, if I can veer off a little bit, is Heritage Park. And Rick Izaguirre and I were walking down the street, down State Street, past a building that originally was a grocery store in downtown Eagle, the only one, and then it became a paint store and is now a pizza place, Smoky Mountain. But anyway, we were walking along there, and there was this empty field there. And we thought, gee, wouldn't it be great to have a park right downtown, a nice location, things like that. So we talked to the people who owned it, who happened to be the ones who owned the paint store at that time. And they said, we don't have any plans there. We own it because we want to make sure the right thing happens there. And there were 3 parcels there. And they said, look, the city didn't have the money to be able to say, let's buy that land.
Sure.
And they said, well, we'll sell you those parcels one at a time if you'll pay for them over a 3-year period. Well, we had the capability to do that. And they said, instead of letting them sit there, build the park on the things, while we're doing this. This was in like February. So we said, well, let's, we started talking to people and we said, let's build this. And we went out and people were willing to make donations and things like that. United Water Company, which didn't even serve Eagle, said, we'll put a kid's, fountain in there, or a play area for kids, water park. We started selling bricks, to raise money. Wright Brothers said, well, we'll do the whole thing as a freebie to do the managers and things like that, manage the overall project. And we'll put the gazebo in for you and things like that. People started donating things. We got a couple of trees donated. There were actually trees that were in the park already and things. And that June, when we had, so we started in February. That June, at Eagle Fun Days, we dedicated the park. So from February to June, we literally built a heritage park. Some parts of it probably were not done as well as they should have been, and that's why 30 years later, they're finally doing things that had to happen to be able to revamp the park, to take out trees that were dying and were, in some cases, they were worried about falling down. I know people say, oh, don't take those trees out. Those are things that had to happen. And then they looked at things that we needed. We needed to have better toilet facilities, and they decided we needed a place to be able to have concessions and things like that. That's what that building is. It's being built right now. But that was a project that in the good old days, literally, you had all those people who were willing to step up, help you out, make donations, do all those kind of things. And if you walk around there, see a whole lot of names on bricks that took place. Awesome. The same kind of thing happened with the creation of the senior center, the community center, I guess it would be called.
What do you, having been here for so long, and seeing it change, what do you think about the Eagle that exists now compared to the Eagle when you were mayor?
Well, I think obviously it's not the same Eagle. I mean, like I've just talked about all those things with community, people knowing each other, doing things together, identifying things that need to be done. It's not happening today. I wish some of those things did, but I think it's grown so fast. So many people have come in that they don't feel the relationship that we had with the city of Eagle and how it's taking place. I think, there are a lot of people who've continued to try to work on that, and I think the changes have not only been within Eagle, it's been the whole environment, of community and things like that has changed. And I think growth brings people in there who have different ideas and things like that. They don't agree with maybe some of the things that have happened in the past that we kind of set the pathway for. And so I'm, my wife and I have looked and said, man, here's this growth. We have to deal with these things. What do you think? Where should we look at someplace else to move to? We haven't found any place, and we've traveled a lot. In fact, a week ago, Donna and I were in Maine on a tour of New England, and Maine was our 50th state that we had visited. So we covered all 50. So we've been in a lot of locations, but never found anything, even in Idaho, that we felt comfortable with. Now, there are some rural communities that'd be kind of neat, but you don't want to drive 50 minutes or an hour to get to a hospital when you need to get there. So
that seems
those
to
are
be
some of the things that are influences, and there are people who say, that's okay with me, and they're probably a little younger than I am. But we're happy to live here. Not everything, and particularly the growth and the influence we see from that makes it difficult. And as like everybody else, it's like, the highways. Ooh. But we need to understand also, when you go out and you're on the highway, don't blame Eagle entirely for the fact that it's like that. I mean, we're one really small portion of who's driving on that road. They could be from Middleton. They could be from Star.
Meridian.
They can be from Meridian. Anybody headed up Highway 55, they've got to make that connection through Eagle. And that's one of the things that's maybe a downside from the influence of traffic, and that's the fact that we've got Highway 55, Highway 44, Highway 16, that all have a great influence, on the city of Eagle and what the traffic situation is. And the downside of that is the fact that the state has never planned, I don't think, well enough for what the future is going to be. And when they suddenly realized, oh, wow, look what's happening. And now they've always been in this catch-up mode to try to take care of things. One of the things that we've tried to do in Eagle in the past was talk about a thing called the Three Cities Crossing. It had three cities being Boise, Garden City, and Eagle. And it would be an extension from the end of Highway 55 where it hits state and connect all the way up to Shindon. It would take out the cement plant, for example, to know where that would go. At one time, it was really seriously looked at by Ada County Highway District. And then they looked and said, man, we got to build like 3 bridges across this. across the river. Where do you go on? Get up the hump onto Shinnon Boulevard, and the cost of it really was so much that Ada County Highway District dropped that, and we've started telling Idaho Transportation Department, you're the ones who can get the funds at some point to build that.
Right.
And they've said, well, it's not on our radar. We've got so many other things or whatever. Back when it was looked at originally, I saw figures that said that about 40% of the traffic on Eagle Road could be taken off and use that. And something like 20% even off Glenwood could be used to do that because of that was years ago. If you take 40% or 20% or whatever off those roads, it could really have an impact if they would build the Three Cities Crossing. And we've been harping at them, we being the city of Eagle, and even through planning and zoning, and trying to get Boise involved in it and Garden City involved in it to get that back on the radar. And ITD now has at least admitted the fact that, yes, we know it's there and it's something that probably should be looked at. Well, that's further along than it was before. It takes a lot of involvement from people to keep harping at ITD to do that crossing. Meridian for a long time wanted an interchange on the interstate at 10 Mile. And they started going to ITD. They'd get a group of people with signs that say, build the the crossing at 10 Mile. And it's there today because ITD heard it and listened to what the development was going to be in that area with the potential and all, and you needed something besides Meridian Road to make the connection as Meridian grew. And they finally did what had to happen. I think the same thing's got to happen over a period of time. Probably not in my lifetime, as knowing what my remaining life may be, but it probably won't happen then. But if things start happening now, we could see it ultimately take place. And I hope that it does someday. It's got to, because they can't widen out Eagle Road to 6 lanes. And that's the only alternative. It's going to help some maybe to have the extension of Highway 16 up the freeway for people who are taking Eagle Road to get up there, but I don't know what the numbers are there. It'll probably help to have Linder, widened out, which is going to take place. They're working on the beginning of that.
Man, the traffic issues. I was speaking with Representative Hill months back, and he was talking about the cost of trying to get another north-south artery across the valley. And it's like they could have stretched 55 straight down where 55 hits state. They could have stretched it all the way down across the valley.
Really?
It's like 30 years ago. They're like, it would have been a pittance.
Yeah.
Now it's like $10 billion
well,
to
good.
do
We
that.
need to get Representative Hill on our side and have him start being those who are harping at ITD to do Highway 55.
He's coming on Thursday. Tell me what you want me to ask him.
Ask him. Why haven't you been talking to ITD people? If you have been, you haven't been talking enough, and you need to get other people besides just you doing it. We thought maybe something had happened when Butch Otter was governor and he had to drive State Street all the time. And we thought maybe he'd look and say, oh, yeah, maybe that is a good idea. But we didn't get him to do that. We thought maybe Governor Little might be interested. He drives highways, the 55 or Highway 44 as is going home back and forth to Emmett or whatever. But we haven't got the governors on board yet.
Well, I see them tonight. I'll ask them too.
All right, good. I'm glad you have. I'm sure you go to all those functions like that.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Well,
no, I don't.
They
I don't.
invite VIPs like you.
I don't. Listen to me. I don't go out of my house. Like I don't want to join your cult. I don't want to be part of your team. I'm just a dude with a microphone, and I happen to get to talk to nice people like you. So lucky me.
Well, there are things out here. I mean, I wish people knew things out here that they don't seem to. Well,
I'm always curious.
I hear it like, Eagle doesn't let people know what's going on, or whatever. And, the city has a website that people ought to go to, Cityofeagle.com is what it is. Pretty
Dun, dun,
difficult.
dun,
Yeah. It has the agendas of all of the meetings. And if you go to those agendas and you click on certain information, like if you go to P&Z and you see there's a subdivision being considered, click on that little blue section, and here comes all the information we see on the subdivision. You can look at that and understand those kinds of things. The P&Z and council meetings are open to people. They can come to those and hear what's going on or whatever, and you can pull it up online if you want to. Elected officials have phones and internet connections. People need to get educated on the scope and the authority and influence that cities can have. For example, the highways.
May I, to your point about community, my goodness. Next time I'm just getting you a lapel mic so you don't have to worry about the microphone.
Well, I can move it right up in front of me.
One of the problems with communication really is that it's like, I think we all have to, by the way, not just the state of Idaho, but other states as well. I've started chatting with a lot of other states and their state level politicians about the problem with communication, because what you just said, it's like, hey, we got this website. Why don't people go to the website? And we could sit here and talk about why all day long. Yeah. But I think that at the end of the day, you just have to realize they're not going. Well, right. And so if people don't, if you put up information in an area or in a manner that you know people aren't going to consume, it just doesn't exist to them. Yeah. It just literally, like, it didn't happen. It would be like me coming to a city council meeting, but the entire city council meeting's in German. And then I leave, I'm like, they didn't talk about the park. I didn't hear them talk about the park. It's like, no, they talked about it. You just didn't hear them, right? You either weren't capable of listening, you weren't listening, whatever it might be. That's the problem. Yeah,
I understand that. And at one point in time, we would start out council meetings way back when, and we would have public input before we actually got onto the agenda and stuff. That's kind of shifted things, and now they said, hey, if after you sit through the council meeting, we'll let you talk at the end of it. And I'm disappointed if that's the way that they go, especially, I remember when we had council meetings that would literally go till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. And they've kind of tried to adjust it so that it isn't that bad. But some people don't want to sit there till 10:30 or 11 to be able to get up and talk for 3 minutes. So that's one thing. I think there was an opportunity. And I wish people understood more about what the city can and can't do. Obviously, the highways, ITD and ACHD, they make those decisions. Eagle is not responsible for all the traffic that takes place. Illegally, Eagle cannot delve into solving problems with homeowners associations. That's a separate legal entity, and the city can't, do things for, any different than any lawsuit somewhere. They can't sit in just and say, oh, I see there's a lawsuit here. The city wants to be involved. Fire district is a separate entity. It's not part of the city. Star Fire District is getting hammered. Everybody running for city council is like, oh, Star. It's like, you don't have any control over this. Yeah. And, schools too. Schools, obviously, they can't affect West Ada. Right. The city really has a very limited scope. Well, I think one thing that there's a lot of misunderstanding about, that if you look at your property tax bill, Eagle represents less than 11% of that total, of the taxes you pay. And the largest part of it is the largest part of your property taxes when you get your bill goes to Ada County, goes to the fire district, which is the second highest, and Ada County Highway District. Eagle is fourth, I think, on that list at 11%. And actually, surprising, the school district is less than Eagle as far as a portion of that. But if you really want to talk, and don't talk percentages, I hate that. Oh, Eagle's raising their taxes by, they're doing the whole 3%. Well, my house, let's say my house is worth $500,000, which is low end of Eagle. With that assessed value and the $150,000 credit and stuff like that, the 3% raise is going to cost me about 40 cents a month.
40 whole cents.
40 cents. That's less than $5 a year with that 3% increase in taxes. So it's going to go from $148 up to about $155 this year. It's not killing me. But boy, I'll tell you, when you talk taxes, people go berserk about those horrible taxes in the city of Eagle and any kind of increase and things like that. And realistically, if you don't talk percentages, then you're becoming more realistic that Eagle is a good city to live in when it comes to your city property taxes. In fact, they're almost the lowest on an assessment of any city in the state of Idaho.
Yeah. I mean, look, if I knew a better place to live, I'd be living there.
So,
yeah.
Well, you're kind of like me.
Yeah.
I guess from that standpoint.
Listen, I'm not, I had, when I was moving, when we decided we were going to move, it's not like we only knew of Idaho, right?
Yeah.
There was nowhere, I mean, for our likeness, this was it.
Well, I mean, people are finding that, and can be a good thing depending on what that development provides, or it can be a curse. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of quote unquote curses from my standpoint of Boise with the development there and how the development has to take place up into the air. Mm-hmm. I just saw a proposal make a new building go in downtown Boise that will be 20% taller than the tallest building right now, which is the Zion building. It's going to be, I don't know, 120, I can't remember how many feet. Anyway, it's a 120-story building or something like that down at 11th and 11th State, something like that. Anyway, it's I think that's too bad to see that happen, but it influences the growth that's taken place. I would not have let that building come into downtown Eagle, 120-story. But
sure,
if I was, making that decision.
Oh my God, Steve, listen, I love everything you're talking about. I'm very sorry. Like, we're kind of running out of time. I got one more city council person coming in, okay. and a couple other things.
Thank you.
I would love to have you back on to keep kind of the story of Eagle going, because I think essentially what we've covered is a lot of development and technical aspects of today, but knowing the people here, and understanding those personalities, what the push and pull was, that's another piece that I'm very curious about, because there's so much history, and it's like how Guerber Park got named Guerber. It's like, okay, that's a question I've been wondering for a while, and I got a much better idea of it now.
Yeah.
But I'd love to keep that going, because if we don't, there's almost no other way to find out.
I don't know if I have enough information for another hour, but
no, we don't have to do an hour, man. Listen, I have a feeling if I could just get you stuck on one idea, you're going to go.
Yeah, I would. I'd love to say, people don't like change. Let's just do a little walk down State Street from 1980 to today. Boy, is it different.
Yeah. Well, even 2021, when I first saw Eagle, it looks different than when I was first moving here. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for coming in today.
It's a pleasure. I enjoy talking about myself a lot.
Oh, my God bless you, sir. You're the best. Thanks for coming in. We'll do it again.
Thank you.